Being a secondary school history teacher, one of the biggest topics we teach is the Second World War. As it's still within living memory, many of the students have grandparents who were involved at some point. My own grandfather, for example, played his role during D-Day, driving Canadian forces onto Juno beach in a landing craft. However, today we look at how the Nazis and the Wehrmacht managed to extremely quickly take France and other territory in Europe. Today we look at Blitzkrieg. First of all, Blitzkrieg is a German term meaning lightning war. It was a military tactic used to create disorganisation and panic amongst enemy forces. The army used mobile forces and locally concentrated firepower to do this. A dense concentration of armoured or motorised vehicles such as tanks, artillery guns and infantry carriers would break through an opposition's line by a series of short, fast and powerful attacks. These breakthroughs would often be backed up by close air support too, providing even more firepower. After breaking through the enemy defences, tanks would then be able to roam freely, causing panic, shock and disorganisation. If you have German infantry on one horizon and tanks behind you, this would strike fear into even the most battle-hardy soldier. This encircling could then lead to the Germans forcing the troops to quickly surrender. Blitzkrieg was successfully used against many different armies. For example, the invasion of Poland used Blitzkrieg. This then brought Britain into the war. Denmark and Norway in April 1940 saw the use of the Blitzkrieg tactic too. Also in May 1940, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg and France all saw the Blitzkrieg tactic used to a highly devastating effect. The fall of France came rapidly and it allowed Hitler to parade in Paris in some extremely famous footage. By constantly pushing into northern France, it forced the British Army back and to retreat towards English Channel. Luckily, Great Britain was protected by the English Channel and the Royal Navy. However, the sheer speed and devastation of Blitzkrieg took the British by surprise. This then led them to be needing to be evacuated, along with some remaining French troops, off the beach of Dunkirk. Winston Churchill wanted 30,000 members of the British Army back. However, through a miracle of deliverance, he managed to get over 300,000 soldiers back to England, over 10 times more than his initial demand. Despite continuing the war with Great Britain, mostly through the Battle of Britain and Luftwaffe bombing raids, in June 1941, German forces turned towards the east and invaded the Soviet Union. Initially, the German Blitzkrieg seemed extremely effective, as Soviet forces were forced back more than 600 miles towards Moscow and they suffered huge losses. A second offensive against the Soviet Union in 1942 brought German forces to the shores of the Volga River and to the city of Stalingrad. However, the Soviet Union launched its infamous counter-offensive in November 1942 and it managed to trap the German 6th Army. Germany was unable to defeat the Soviet Union and many perceived this invasion to be the downfall of the German war effort. Fighting a war on two fronts, especially against the vastness of the Russian army in the climate of Russia, was a bizarre military decision. More famous uses of the Blitzkrieg occurred by Erwin Rommel in North Africa and also by Heinz Guderian, who is considered the father of Blitzkrieg. The Blitzkrieg tactic was a huge change from the warfare seen in the First World War. Long wars of attrition along a trench line were no longer the norm. The early British tanks following World War I were designed specifically for trench warfare. However, the German tanks such as the Panzer II was designed for speed, efficiency and destruction. The Germans used this new technology in the most destructive way possible. It was clear that with Blitzkrieg, that warfare and military tactics had changed forever. I hope you've enjoyed this short lesson on Blitzkrieg. To support the channel, please subscribe. Thank you.